Hey guys, we're back.
How's it going, guys? Hope
Hope everyone's
everybody's
had a
doing
good
well.
week.
Getting close to Christmas.
It is.
Exciting times. Or maybe terrible times, depending on what your attitude
Terrible.
towards Christmas is.
I didn't like it for quite a number of years, but that was, I think, when you're not a kid, you're definitely a kid. You're into your early 20s. There's a time where I was just like, I'm sick of fucking Christmas, anything to do with it for quite a number of years, and then I slowly come back around. I think because I lived with my missus here the last 10 years. I think because we have the tree out. I like finding cool little decorations. We got a Batmobile in there as well as Santa Claus and reindeer and a Spider Man, and I like the aesthetic of the stuff out there. And we've got little Mickey Mouse and Christmas outfits and little reindeers and all kinds of just cutesy stuff. So I like the decorative, side of it, and I like seeing the lights around the neighborhood. We don't really do lights, can't be bothered, but around the neighborhood, I like going for a drive around the block, see what people have got up. And
I like finding a Turbo Man under the tree that only
Trevor, man.
speaks.
That's Johnny's. He stole it from little Johnny.
So, what are we talking about today?
We're getting into some more fun movies. So one of the old time fun ones, of course, old John Candy and the Blues Brothers, classic film. And after that, he did go on to star in the Driller Killer, a bit of a cult following that one. And the thing about the Driller Killer is, first he drills, then he kills. So he's quite a dangerous man, old Uncle Buck. If you don't like Uncle Buck, you're rather stuck.
Yeah. Uncle Buck is the guy who likes to cook. Oh, no, sorry. That was that dirty video I was watching earlier. But, yeah, Uncle Buck, uh, definitely another childhood household classic uh, in my neck of the woods. What about you?
Oh yeah, I can't remember exact what age I sent the first time. I want to say somewhere between ages 9 and 12. So like it was a VHS store rental. I do remember it was a VHS rental because every week we would get movies on like a weekend or something. But I'd go with my dad or I'd bring them back, and we'd watch all kinds of stuff. And we'd watch family stuff and other things, or sometimes he'd rent stuff that was like restricted, and I'm like 10, and he just put it on anyway, and I just watched whatever it was, whatever I shouldn't have been watching, like horror movies and action stuff and violence and all that. But yeah, I do remember enjoying it from way back then. I've watched it at least once every 10 years since age 10, and in recent years I've watched it probably like once a year, sometimes twice a year, really. And I remember when I was a kid, I always remember the big giant pancakes on the show snuffle. That just stuck in my mind. But until I watched it again in my 20s, I didn't remember all the finer details and stuff. Just the kind of like the smoking car and the show snuffle, the snow shovel and stuff like that. Okay. I did two
Yeah,
versions
it's
of the
quite the
thumbnail here. I had like one with just like him, and then one with the kids and the dog and that in the corner, and then the car added in.
yeah, the car is a classic set piece
Yeah.
of the movie. Yeah, no,
And this is it.
I think it's the first John Candy movie I might have watched as a
Mm.
youngster. I don't recall ever seeing him before then, but I definitely knew him after watching this. It was such a memorable role.
I think I've probably seen Stripes before this, and I know another time we rented Who's Harry Crumb after this, which I did rewatch a week or so ago. I watched about 5 John Candy films in one day. I got into a streak. I watched this and I went, I need some more candy. I got a sugar rush going on, and I did watch the Who's Harry Crumb, which is a bit of a middle of the road one, but it's not as good as other films, but it's still really fun. And I watched Planes, Trains, and I watched one called Summer Rental, which was a Carl Reiner film, and very similar to like this movie and Lampoon's Vacation. They're all kind of like middle America family getting into mischief and hijinks when they're trying to have a holiday and all that. And
It's it's a very simple kind of setup for a story as well, which is usually the
Mm,
kind. It's
it's like
nearly the goal.
wholesome.
Yeah, it's so kind of relatable, and because I think a lot of people have been put in a situation where sometimes you either have to call upon somebody from maybe outside your immediate family to come and
Hmm.
help you with a crisis, or you are the person on the other side who's going to help somebody for a few days while they're trying to get some
Yeah,
type
yeah.
of crisis sorted out. But for those of you who haven't watched the movie, just to give you a brief kind of overview, um, so we've got this middle American family. I think they live in the Chicago suburbs.
Yep.
Um, husband, wife, two kids. They got a call in the middle of the night to say that the wife's father has suffered a heart attack, so it's a bit of a medical emergency. So the parents have to take off quickly at short notice to go attend the ill person. So the kids need to be looked after by somebody, and it is
And they run
decided
through their list of people,
yeah,
and they can't get anybody, but right at the bottom.
they've an entire laundry list of people they would rather have look after their
Mhm.
children, but unfortunately they have to go for their final option, which is good old Buck, good old Uncle Buck. He's going to be coming to stay, and he's going to be helping out with the kids for a few days.
And I do think John Candy plays a great everyman. I mean, he's very funny, comical actor, but he's also a good, decent, serious, dramatic actor. Like when he's not being goofy as hell. And I think he's really at his best in Uncle Buck and Planes Trains, where he plays like a very real, relatable character. And whereas in the other film, I like all his roles, even the kind of B and C films. But when you watch Stripes or some of the other ones, they're more goofy and cartoonish and over the top, and they're not meant to be realistic. They're just like silly, silly films. Whereas this is meant to be more realistic. He's not, um, he's not doing big slipping on the banana peel gags. He's doing more like the comedies from like the situations and the people and how he interacts with them, and he's just got different values and different way of living than they do.
Yeah, it's not like heavy on the, like you said, that kind of slapstick, ridiculous slip
Mm.
on a banana
Except for
peel.
one bit near the
Yeah,
end, but that's much
yeah,
later on.
yeah. Oh,
He
don't
gets
get me
kicked
wrong.
in the
Yeah,
door.
it has its moments of that
Yeah.
type of thing, but it's not anchored to it. And like you
No,
say,
the
John,
base of it isn't like cartoonish and over exaggerated. There's a couple of little bits where they kind of play with that silly stuff in a filmic way, but most of it's fairly realistic. There's a couple of Looney
Candy,
Tunes moments in it, but they're very brief.
John Candy is a charming dude, though, on
He
screen,
is,
and
and there's expressions, man, in this film just get me. Whether he's happy or angry or sad or sleepy, I can just look at that face all day. His expressions are so good.
we so after getting the initial bad news of the ill parent who suffered the harsh attack, we are introduced to Uncle Buck in his native setting in Chicago. He's on a date with his main squeeze, his girlfriend Shanice, and it's established pretty quickly that Buck, he's probably one of those people who could describe him as like a lovable bullshitter. He's a jack of
Mm.
all trades. He's
Coasting.
probably not really, yeah, he's coasting. He's not really tied down to a relationship. He's not committed to a job. And Shanice, his girlfriend here, is trying to convince him basically just to get his act together, and she wants to get him into full time employment, and hopefully eventually get him to marry her as well.
Yeah, and you get the
Of
sense
course,
she's a
Buck.
little bit too good for him.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You know that this woman puts up with a lot of shit. She puts up
Hmm.
with a lot of guff from this guy. Uh, and of course, it Buck, John Candy himself is excellent at portraying the kind of squirming. Oh, I'm not ready to do this. I'm not ready to take this next step.
Yeah, yeah.
Just classic. Like, doesn't want to be pinned down. Doesn't want the responsibility. Doesn't want to be tied down. He's happy living the life he's living, and there ain't going to be any changing him, except for what's about to unfold during the events of this movie.
But yeah, the beginning of the film, Buck gets a call from out of town and drives in to look after the kids, but he hasn't seen them for so many years, so they don't really even remember him or know who he is. So when he does arrive there in the middle of the night the next day, they get up and he's making them all breakfast and such. They don't even know who the heck he is. But we see he lives a kind of bachelor life. I mean, he has his missus that he's kind of half-heartedly committed to, but he lives right next to the Chicago Cubs stadium there, and there's some cool shots where we see all kinds of memorabilia all over his walls, and he's definitely a sports fan, and he's still living that kind of bachelor life where his apartment is just a mess, and he's got bits of rubbish and stuff on the floor, and drives over in the middle of the night. And we get a memorable scene when he does arrive there in his car that's always smoking or burning oil or whatever. It's been so long since he's been to see his relatives, and I think since their wedding, or possibly when the kids were first born, for going from the photos, and when he sees the wedding album, he goes to the wrong house on the opposite side of the street, but it's also the middle of the night, so it's understandable he goes to the wrong house.
Yeah, hammering on the door, screaming for his brother Bobby to open the door. Just brilliant, waking all the neighbors on the street. It's very funny as well, because when we are shown Buck actually driving to the house, he's kind of mulling over, how long it's been since he's seen the children, and he can't really remember any of their names, and he's getting all their ages wrong. He's like totally. He's like, wow, Mary, she must be like 9 years old now, and it's like, no, there is no child called Mary. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, I can see a bottle of Jack Daniels way over in the corner, and it's got all this cool memorabilia, and it's got boxing, and he's got ice hockey and baseball. It's really cool, like set decoration here with all these newspaper clips and
it's look, I know it's a bit run down, and like you say, that kind of bachelor pad look, but I've seen a lot worse environments that people actually would live in.
I like it. Other than the mess on the floor, I think it looks awesome. He's got all this memorabilia stuff.
So Buck gets the call. He gets the call from his brother to ask him, look, you need to come round. And as we mentioned, he shows up in the middle of the night, waking the neighbors. But before that, he also has to give Shanice the bad news that he will not be going to work tomorrow. She had pulled a few strings to get him a job at the local tire shop or wherever it is she works, and she thought that he was going to commit to the job and kind of make a fresh start with it, but now he called her to let her know he won't be coming to work, and she is not pleased at all. So right from the get-go, we've kind of got this. We've got like a kind of a dual crisis situation going on. We've got Buck, who's kind of thrust into this situation where he's all of a sudden having to look after these kids out of nowhere, while also pissing off his girlfriend at the same time for having to no-show the new relationship. Job. So straight away, he's got a couple of plates he's going to need to juggle to get through this movie.
But yeah, he comes in the middle of the night, and in the morning, the kids get up and don't recognize him and think it's a stranger or something's in the house.
Yeah, we get the whole Macaulay Culkin's like, I have an uncle.
Yeah,
brilliant reaction.
Because he would have been, he's probably seen him when he's like 1 or 2 years old or something, so he have no memory of him. But he makes a big crazy spread breakfast and seems to cook everything in the bloody house. But he's a very good cook. Like he sees kind of messy apartment that, but he's a very good cook and makes a really awesome dishes of food that no one wants to eat because they just want to go to school and no one wants to eat anything.
And he also meets Maisie, the oldest child, the teenage daughter, who actually is a teenager, I believe, in this movie. Like in real life, I think she was
There's actually
like
someone
only
playing about her actual age for a change.
Yeah, she was like 17 or 18, which yeah makes a
Mm.
welcome change. It's usually
And the
some like 30-year
yeah,
old masquerading as a high
and it,
school kid. You know.
and it is the actress does a really good job of being that prototypical snotty teenager who's, you know, they're not quite an adult, but they're not a kid, and they're very snotty and nasty to people and always sneering with the sour face. Like it's kind of cliche, but she does it so well. Like it's a testament to the actress how well she does it.
And the two younger kids are very well cast as well, and
Yeah,
they
McCulkin's
they
still in
they
that tiny pre-home or, you know, around the Home Alone era cute phase where, you know, he's so tiny, you know.
yes, it's definitely almost a dry run of the Kevin McAllister character from Home
Yeah, yeah,
Alone in
very
this
similar.
movie. You see a few of
But
those little glimmers of that character.
and the younger kids, both the boy and the girl, and like when Maisie and the other one, they seem at first they're taken aback that they have an uncle and who is this guy, but they start liking him pretty quick because they see he's kind of like laid back and fun loving kind of guy, and they relate to him. And I can relate to this when I've seen little nieces and nephews that I've only seen a couple of times in my life from various relatives, and I got along well with the kids because they just, you know, love just mucking them out and play wrestling or go to the park or whatever. And I felt like I got to be Uncle Buck sometimes with some of my relatives' kids.
Yeah, cooking up a storm here. He
Yeah,
gets um he gets quizzed as well with like a million questions from Macaulay Culkin in a really nice little moment as well, where they're kind of
yeah, and do you
one
know
to
what they're
one.
homaging in that bit where he's asking the questions?
What?
It's a dragnet. Dragnet, boom, 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 boom. It's like he's a cop. What's he doing? That's his job. Why? They do exactly that with the tone and the cutting back and forth with it. It's so good. They don't do the musical cue, but everything else is straight out of the Dragnet.
I appreciate it even more, and I didn't even know that.
It always makes me laugh because I only get it because they did it on The Simpsons. Because I saw the movie version of Dragnet, Dan Aykroyd, but I've only seen clips of the original show, which ran for years. But they always did that back and forth, like, what's he doing? He's a cop. He's a criminal. I got to catch him. That's my job.
Cooking up a storm here. Cooking our
Yeah,
garbage, I believe, is the
yeah,
expression
that's
that
really
young
good.
Macaulay.
Cooking up garbage. But if you
Yeah,
look at it,
hilarious.
it's hard to see here, but when you're watching the proper film, the food's really nice. He actually makes really good spread of food. Like I was mouth kind of watering when I'm watching this. And then that next thing is they got to get into school when the older girl wants to go off by herself, but he insists on giving them a ride so he knows they're safe and where they're going, and obviously taking the younger kids in. I love all the I mean, this infamous scene where he pulls up to the high school and the car backfires and all the smoke. But I love seeing all the fashion and clothes all the kids are wearing of the area here. It's great.
Yeah, it used to always American high schools used to look so cool to me as a kid watching this stuff. They used to look
Yeah,
like
you know, no one was
nothing
really
the way
didn't have all
school
these expensive clothes for the poor neighborhoods. So
like school over here is like kids in actual school uniforms,
yeah,
dreary, marching to their classes in like
yeah,
dreary, dimly lit
like this. Like,
corridors. It just yeah, American high schools in these movies just always look like so exciting and so many
is this like
different
the outside of
colorful
a hip hop
outfits and
music
characters.
video or something? It's like,
And I believe it's actually a real school. They used a real
yeah, I think
closed
so. I
down
believe so.
school to shoot, which like it once again I say it nearly every every time we review a movie. I always
Asian
appreciate when
location.
it's like an actual location shot and
Yeah, there's lots
some
of great
real
stuff,
effort put
location
in.
stuff. In it.
But look, I do feel a little bit for our teenage friend here in this scene because we've all been there with an older
Oh
parent
yeah.
or relative when you're very self-conscious and you just want to be as you just want to fit in, you want to blend in, and then
Hmm.
you've got Buck pulling up to her school car,
And he's
smoke
wearing his big,
hissing
like,
out of
weird,
it.
fluffy Russian hat thing as well.
So embarrassing for the poor girl. And then of course the big bang of the exhaust, like a bomb's gone off, literally knocks
Yeah, that's the
down the
best. And
crowd
all the
behind
kids,
it.
you can tell it's a kind of like middle, middle class neighborhood. Like, the kids are dressed well and got nice clothes and stuff. But the moment that shot goes off, like, they'll recognize it's like a gunshot. Everyone just ducks and gets straight on the ground. So it's like they've heard a gunshot before. So they must live next to some poorer districts where they're hearing something to be doing that so quick.
Yeah, they know to duck and cover when they hear that shit.
Yeah. And I love seeing the kids, the younger kids in the back seat. Their clothes are so overstuffed that they're almost kind of buffed up like bodybuilders because they've got so much layers and layers on to keep them warm. They look ridiculous.
Yeah, I doubt Buck even has a working heater in that car.
No,
It
no.
wouldn't surprise me at all.
Like Macaulay Culkin's like 3 times the size of that scene when he's in the car. Like, his jacket and stuff is just stuffed with so many layers.
Never know. It could be a little bit of Buck overcompensating because he just doesn't
Yeah.
have a clue. It's like, don't want
Yeah,
these
I get
kids
the
to catch
impression it's
cold.
something like that. But yeah, then we see he gets them to school. He's made the crazy breakfast that no one really ate, but it was nice food. And he goes home and he's like cleaning up, and he calls his missus on the phone, who works at like the tire auto place, catching up with her. And he's kind of like settling into the domestic routine, as we all do when you've got to like get the kids to school and clean and get everything prepared for the evening and later on. And there's
Yeah,
awesome,
preparing the school lunches.
awesome scene of the school lunches. And hang on, let's see. No, that's that one. Yeah, just to get what's actually, he sends the lunch with little Macaulay Culkin, and he's got such a weird grab bag of stuff. He's got like I think it's meant to be a cucumber or an off banana. It's hard to tell. He's got a sandwich, tin of sardines, which is good food, but kids don't like. The jar. At first, I thought it was mayonnaise, but when I looked at it, I blew that up to the full screen. He's taken like an old, like a jam jar or a mayonnaise jar, and he's tipped like the gallon milk into this jar and then sealed the top on it and given this thing of milk. And then he has some kind of miscellaneous bag that looks like it's got like seawater or like olive dressing or something. It's really disgusting. And when he goes to trade with the other kids, they all just like go zooming back on their seats. They're scared to even trade with this mysterious grab bag of foods he has.
Yeah, like one of the bags, it's hard to tell. Like it looks like it's got like a rolled up bit of sausage and chorizo meat. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
he grabbed anything. Anything. That was probably all the leftover stuff he didn't use
yeah,
from
yeah.
cooking breakfast.
But milk and sardines
But
is actually decent food, but the rest of it's kind of.
yeah, I don't know, man.
And then
Milk and sardines together mightn't make my tummy feel too good.
maybe not together, but it's good nutrition. Just separate them, have a gap. But yeah, we see Buck at the house, and he's got some downtime where he's dropping them off at school. He's cleaned up and everything, and done the dishes, and he's looking through stuff in the house and finds the wedding album from when his relatives got married, and he sees a photo that he knows he was in, but he can't see himself in it. And he pulls it out. I thought it was cut, but it was folded. They've folded him completely out of the picture because it's like, and I get the impression it was the wife, because I think it's like the husband's brother is Buck, and so the wife
Yes.
hasn't liked him, and they've folded that photo away.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely get the impression he must have really pissed off the wife in the past because yeah,
Mm,
she has a real chip on her shoulder about him. I think as well in that picture where where he's folded over, you can kind of almost see if you look closely like her face in the picture, like she's smiling, but
hmm
she also looks like, I wish this man was not standing near me. I wish I didn't
Yep.
have anything to do with this guy. So he probably didn't like Buck's reckless ways in comparison to her husband's more kind of straight-laced family man attitude.
And it's a pretty common thing in families where there's someone, even if they're a good person, but someone in the family doesn't like someone else, whether it's a genuine reason or superficial. That it's pretty normal in families. There's someone people don't like, or there's always the black sheep or pariah in everyone's family. But we
Oh
see
yeah.
him again, going to pick them up after school when we get the car. All the masses of oil burning smoke just going everywhere, and the teenage girl has her boyfriend hanging around who's a bit of a creep, and he's like hanging about, kind of like pretty much trying to kiss her through the window and that. And Buck just like tells him to take off, and he doesn't listen. And then he just drives the car off like a lunatic with the poor guy, like his arm still hanging inside the window as he takes off.
It's hilarious. So yeah, because first of all, yeah, the boyfriend's his name is Bug, which is just like, what a
Yeah,
stupid
yeah.
name. But also as well, he tries to be a bit of a smart arse, because obviously when Buck pulls up first, you can hear that the car is not in good condition.
No,
So Bug
take
walks
it
up
to
to
the
the
tire
window
and
and he's
order, as
like,
Mrs. Way.
Bug walks up to the window and he's like, "Oh, have you ever heard of a tune-up?" And Buck just laughs. He's like, "Have you ever heard of a ritual killing?"
He's so good with
Brilliant.
those
Yeah.
little one-liners, and then the silly expressions, uh, and then also I can't remember if it was now or slightly later, because we see, like in National Lampoons, we see a repeat of a couple of days of cycle of habitual domestic stuff. But when the girl was going, I don't want to be dropped off at school and do this, and I hate this, and it's like, yeah, you will. Well, next time I'm going to turn up naked if you think this is embarrassing.
I'll turn up in my robe and I'll walk you right
Yeah,
to your class.
yeah, right. And he's not trying to be nasty. He just wants to make sure he's safe to and from school, because he's responsible while the parents are away and that. And but they're giving him grief.
Yeah. You definitely you get the impression if Buck had just been assigned to look after the small kids, it would have been a
Be
cakewalk.
fine. Yeah,
He would have made a bit of a mess and it might have been a bit topsy turvy in terms of what diet they were given. But other than that, I think it would have been relatively smooth sailing. Uh, Buck is definitely he's in his weakest when he's having to deal with the teenager. They just always button heads, no matter what
yeah.
approach he
And
tries to take.
so were actual parents with button heads as well.
He decides to take the kids bowling. We meet a
Yeah,
few
which I thought was
interesting
fine.
characters
Like
in the
bowling's
bowling
alright. I
alley.
used to go bowling as a kid.
I love bowling. I would actually go as far as to say it's the second best sport in the world after professional wrestling.
You've watched Kingpin then,
Oh yeah, stick that one on the list. I love Kingpin.
and they used
Um,
to have. I mean, they've still got them now, but there's still bowling alleys around. But there used to be a lot more video games back then on the side. But so you might bowl a game with your parents, and you're like, "Bye, mum and dad, I'm off over here to play these video games."
get some nice moments here, I think, where we really see the kind of quality of the character of Buck. You really
Yeah,
get the impression that
see who he
even though
is.
he is a bit of a screw up, he's still a good person at heart, because we see this guy. His name is actually Pal, but he's chewing on a toothpick. You can see he's got a scar on his mouth from where he's already impaled himself on with a toothpick
Yep,
previously,
yep.
probably. And he's being all creepy and weird with the teenage girl and all, like trying to like slime up to her. And Buck spots this, just
Absolute
walks right
crave.
over. Yeah, he more or less tells him to jog on and leave his niece alone. But then we also meet Buck's other mate, who's tipping him off that there's going to be a big race coming up at the horse track, and that they've got a good tip to make some money on some bets. So as long as Buck turns up on the day, he's going to get the tip and he's going to make enough money to look after himself financially for the rest of the year, which we kind of, I suppose, it's established that that's how Buck actually lives his life. He makes a few good bets, throughout the
Yeah,
year to sustain him for the rest of the year, and then that keeps him from having to, do more adult things like, get a job and all that type of stuff.
yeah. It's a good scene because we do get to see the quality of his character. That the creeper who just immediately sidles up to the girl, and Buck comes in and is like, no, 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 you just get the fuck out of here. Not exactly in those words, but he doesn't mess around. Like, and if the guy didn't move, you got the sense he was just going to throw him out of there if he didn't move.
Oh yeah,
So
he
he
would have
definitely
dragged him
wants to
out of there.
look after them. And
We
leads
see
into the next scene, I mean, we'd have the end of the bowling, and the girl's not too happy, but she sees she got, he got rid of the creep, but at the same time, he brought them to the place where the creep was, so she's still kind of pissed off. We get
Yes.
the next day with the big giant pancakes he's making with the snow shovel, and he says it's a kid's birthday, but I can never remember if it actually is, or he just thinks it's the kid's birthday, and they just go with it. I can never quite be sure.
I think no, I think it is the actual kid's birthday
Right.
because the mother had booked the clown in advance. I know we'll get to
Oh,
that in a
yeah,
moment,
that's
but
right. Yes, yes. I always get confused. Whenever I watch a movie like 20 times, I just little stuff.
when I was a kid watching this for the first time, I just thought, even though I was like, oh, cool, it's a giant pancake, I still thought what he was doing was just, what Americans did. I thought, oh, this is
Yeah,
perfectly
that's what
normal
Americans say.
behavior.
Everything's bigger. Giant big Cokes and giant burgers, giant pancakes, giant balls, ball of America, giant
This is just
wrestlers.
how they do things.
Yeah.
Like every household eats pancakes this size for breakfast. It's the birthday tradition.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, we get this clown that turns up in the mouse car, and no, it's not Dumb and Dumber. It's a different car because that was a dog car, but it reminds me of that every time I see it. And the John Candy comes to the door, and the clown guy is like staggering up, and then he can smell like, I don't know, like whiskey or spirits on his breath when he gets there. So he's drunk. He's driven drunk, and he's turning up to a kid's birthday party first thing in the morning drunk.
Brilliant. Like the clown, what a character because he's trying to
It's so
almost like
good.
just push past John Candy to get into the house, and
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
"Oh man, I'm just after coming from an all-night bachelorette party. You want to hear some dildo jokes?" And then John Candy's like, "No, there's kids in there, man." But then the
Yeah,
clown, he
not a
doesn't
good
seem.
professional.
Oh, definitely not. Well, he does not take too kindly to Buck telling him off about his being drunk and whatnot. So he starts giving Buck shit and calling him all
Yeah,
sorts of
yeah.
names. So Buck just
And
lays him
that's
out
you know
and just
how drunk he is, because like they've paid him to come here, and it's like, no, you fucking idiot. It's like, get out of here.
But Buck, he takes none of this guff and he punches him right in his
Mm,
big red clown nose,
yeah.
which makes the honk honk when he punches him as well, which is classic.
And yeah, the next
He's like,
scene that teenagers are having in like a hangout thing, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood where they can be by themselves and have some booze and hang out and like make out. I mean, it's like the old, I don't know, happy days driving up on the cars on the hill sort of thing. They're hanging out in some kind of barbecue park area at night and getting up to shenanigans.
shenanigans indeed, and Buck happens
Like
to
it's pretty tame
swing
overall. They're
by.
just like, they just want time to themselves.
Oh yeah, it's like you mentioned earlier. These are very kind of like middle class, upper middle class people. It's definitely very, like you said, tame. It's not like total
Like no one's
wildness,
taking
and
drugs or anything.
exactly, yeah. It's fairly innocent compared to what you might expect to see at these type of
And they're just having,
teenage gatherings.
like generic beer. No one's like getting drunk or going stupid or, they're just hanging out being teenagers.
However, Buck does still notice that douchebag Bug is gnawing on his
Yep.
niece's face. So he decides to he asks him, it's like, do you know what a hatchet is? And the kid's like,
Hatchet.
it's like, yeah, it's like some type of an axe. And Buck's like, I have one. Do you want to see it?
Have one right here. Like the boot. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
it's
of
so
course,
good the
this
way he
is
holds it
more
up and the light reflects of it.
it's more embarrassment though, for Maisie because she just wants to be all cool and hang out with her mates. And here's Buck,
Yeah.
once again threatening her boyfriend and kind of showing up out of the blue and embarrassing her. So, it just entrenches her position further that Buck is the enemy. And, she's going to get her revenge on him later on.
Yeah, for sure. And that leads into, he goes into the school the next day, like he's going inside, and it's meant to be like a parent-teacher meeting with the, I don't know, either the teacher or the principal. But Buck goes in instead. Has a ridiculous scene when he goes to use the urinals, and it's like the urinals for little kids, and he has to crouch down on his knees instead of just using the toilets behind him. And waits outside the principal's office where the other kids there is kind of like, why'd you get seated here? What did you do, mister? Goes in to see this lady with the horrible mole on her chin, and the lady proceeds to tell him that the little girl, who's this sweet, innocent, like little cherub, little ridiculously cute girl, couldn't do a thing wrong, tells him that she's a bad egg and no good.
Yeah, she's a horrible person. This like vice principal or whatever.
What's the one in Matilda, like the Trunchbull or whatever? It reminds me of that.
Yes,
it's just
yes,
like
Miss
she's
Trunchbull.
so villainous.
Buck is brilliant though, because he keeps on saying what he sees, and he's like, "Oh, I'm the worst. I'm Mr. Melanoma."
Yeah.
And so yeah, while this kind of confrontation with Buck and the assistant principal is going on, we do get the clip of the little girl in her class, and the teacher asks, "Does the class have any interesting, stories or facts about anything that happened this week?" And the little girl is telling them about how her uncle Buck has to microwave the socks. And then the teacher asks, like, "Why is your uncle microwaving socks?" And the little girl's like, "Because the goddamn dryer is not working." And he's like, "You blasphemer!"
Blasphemer. There's another fun little thing here too, which I didn't notice until I was doing the slides for this, because you see that I'm sitting at the same computer screen and I'm seeing the individual frames up much closer than on the TV, and of course I'm pausing it to save the images as I'm playing the movie. On the left there, so he walks back after he sees the teacher or principal. He walks back down the hallway, and it pauses just outside that hallway, and it's lit for no particular reason where there would not normally be a light. And do you know what that shadow is there? That's another little homage to a certain thriller horror filmmaker.
Is it like a Psycho style deal?
Hitchcock. If you look at him, he's the big fat man in the silhouette. He's doing the Hitchcock silhouette. Yes. But he also pauses and takes out, to add to it, he pauses to take out a cigar, and you can see that even the silhouette of the cigar. So it was just a fun little thing they put in there.
Blink and you'd miss it moment also.
Yeah, it's only like 1 or 2 seconds. I've never noticed it until this time when I watched it. I went, "Yep, that's very intentional," because it's like they use that famous Hitchcock silhouette, not just on movies, but Alfred Hitchcock Presents and stuff like that. I thought it was good fun. Then back at the house again, it's nighttime, and he's outside, and he's found the cat wandering around. He's wrestling with it. It's quite a big male cat going, "Meow." It's not happy. He's brought it inside, and he's like, "I brought the cat in." They're like, "We don't have a cat." And he's like, "All right, you got to go back outside." And the cat runs off again.
But we also see here there's a little bit of an act of vengeance carried out as well, because Shanice calls the house looking for Buck while he's dealing with this hat situation, and it's actually the daughter who answers the phone and kind of makes out like he's not around, even though he should be around. And this kind of obviously
like
angers
up to mischief.
Yeah, he's supposed to be minding these kids, but look, he's just at his usual carrying on, which you can tell really angers Shanice on the phone. So seeds are being planted for a big blow up here, thanks to this interference.
It's funny. I just distracted myself looking at the extended cast, and like most of them, because we didn't really kind of mention as we go. But you got John Candy, MACAULAY Culkin is the boy, but also one of the as school child one, and Anna Klumsky was like, so she's not really a credited role, just one of the background kids in the school. That was cool. Went on to be on My Girl, and of course that show Veep with Julia Louis-Dreyfus and that. Anyway,
we got a little bit of screen time here, and Uncle Buck, get her feet wet.
Yep. But yeah, here we get into kind of moving into the middle part of the film, and this is when I don't know, just when the hilarity factor definitely goes up, but there's just so much going on. He's juggling all the domestic home stuff, and the nosy neighbor, who I always think of as like who was Jacky on Roseanne, as the main role I remember her from, because she was the character for so many years. She's wearing a weird like horse riding outfit that's like extra tight in certain parts. She's very like flirtatious and all that, and then we get the great scene where when she first comes in, he's in the other room, beating the hell out of the washing machine, going, "Come on, come on, come on!" And he's smashing it and banging it, and she walks into the house, not knowing that he's there, and thinks he's some kind of burglar or something. Then he thinks he's potentially, I don't know, having his way with some lady in another room, but it turns out it's the washing machine that wouldn't work, and it's like hilariously framed and shot scene. But then
Yeah,
next
because
time,
the washing machine, the door won't open on it. So he's
yeah,
he's saying things like, "I'm going to shove my load into you, whether you like it or not." And
that's
she's like,
so
"Who are you
good.
talking
And it's probably the
32
most
into?"
adult scene of the film for all the double entendres. Like the rest of it's pretty PG, but that one was full on. But we get later on where he sees her again, then they're being kind of like, friendly and that, like, we're both kind of middle of the day, passing the time chatting, and she gets him to dance with him, but she gets like overly flirtatious and dancing and wriggling all over him like South American style, and then he accidentally headbutts her, which is the best bits. And of course,
Brilliant.
his
Yeah,
missus turns up at exactly that moment when he's dancing with this very flirtatious lady.
bad timing. Bad timing. Yeah, poor Shanice getting her heart broken here right in front of her. Yeah, because I think it's like the reaction from the headbutt that has her like kind of jumping into his arms the moment that she
Yeah,
actually walks through. So if only she'd been a few seconds earlier, she would have in fact seen her
yeah.
main man just headbutting a woman instead, you know. So, but yeah, she takes off in a huff and just like gets the hell out of there. And it's kind of firmly established in her mind that he's definitely a philandering cheater after
Yeah,
what the teenage daughter had said to her on the phone, and then seeing this as well with the way he's carrying on with Jacky from from
yeah.
Roseanne. Uh,
And he's
but
definitely not. It's just played up for the comical effect, but then it has serious consequences of,
yeah.
driving a wedge between them.
Well, Jacky from Roseanne definitely wants to get the ride off Uncle Buck
Oh
because
yeah,
she
she
is so
does.
keen
Yeah,
on him.
she's like the old
She's
desperate housewives thing. She's like whoever I can hang out with in the middle of the day.
Yeah, because like I'm pretty sure when they are introduced to each other the first time, like the very first thing she mentions to him is the fact that she's divorced. It's like she has to
Yeah,
get that out there straight away. It's like I'm free, I'm available.
and she does look very sexy in this film too.
Oh, she does, yeah. She's looking great. Good old Jackie from Roseanne. Never thought I'd be looking at you this way.
Yeah, we'll go on to the next
Hilarity.
part.
More
Yeah,
shenanigans. Yeah, we're
Laurie
getting into
Metcalf. That's her actual name. I always forget it.
yeah, we're getting into some I suppose things have kind of escalated in a sense because everything's going downhill with
Hmm.
Shanice
Oh,
after
also, in
what she witnessed.
with the washing, his alternate thing, he's washing it all in the sink, trying to dry some of the microwave, and then he burnt some of it. But now he's got the ceiling fan with coat hangers and hair dryers on either side of it spinning around. That was a solution when the washer dryer wouldn't work. Is so good.
Yeah, that desperate times called for desperate measures.
Yeah,
And, you know, there is
because it is
probably
winter
some
in like
logic in what he's
Chicago,
doing.
so you can't dry nothing outside. Just like in, I don't know, Ireland, New Zealand, Scotland, you can't dry nothing outside in winter. And if anything, it gets more cold or wet or frozen, and then you've got to like then the clothes just snap.
Well, look, I'm no scientician, but
I thought you were.
I reckon that clothes spinning around on the fan while a hair dryer blows them, it must dry them. It has to work. It has to work.
Gotta do something.
There
At
is
least
some
stretch out your
logic there.
jumpers. Yeah. But yeah, I
We
like
also see
we get him sitting on the couch with the dog, and he gives like a beer to the dog in his box.
look, he gets into another little bit of hot water here because doesn't he has to go and do his gambling and all that stuff, but you know, he was supposed to have the kids being babysitted, so then there's a bit of a whole hullabaloo and back and forth about whether he should bring the kids with him, and
Yeah.
Denise decides to call around and, you know, to keep an eye on things. I think he gets in contact with her and asks her for help with the kids. But we get this
It's very
very,
surprising she
very
would come back.
yeah, oh completely. Yeah. I suppose she's doing it for the kids more so than Buck, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
is definitely being gonna. But we did definitely get a very kind of Home Alone-esque moment
yeah.
where
I love the
little
scene
Macaulay
with
Culkin.
yeah, looking through the letterbox hatch, and he knows that someone's coming, but he's never seen them, and he's wary of strangers, not letting strangers house. And he pops open the letter sheet like, "Who's that?" and puts it down again. It's such a good scene, and it's
Totally
very
kind of like
strange because
gangster
they
house
don't.
vibes.
Well, they have this cutaway, right? Which I don't know why it's in there. I don't know if it's a gag or some kind of error in the film that they meant to edit out, because what's here in sequence is exactly what's in the film. Like, she knocks on the door, he flips the thing out and looks and sees her there, but he does it again. And see that shot on the right? There's a picture of three men's faces looking through the letterbox. They're not
Yes.
there. So that's some kind of
No.
still image or a magazine, or what the heck is that? It doesn't make sense because they're not out there. And then he flips it
My
again and it's just her looking through. So I don't know if
my
it's him holding up the
interpretation,
magazine.
I think it's supposed to be him,
Ah,
like
he's holding it up,
imagining. Yeah,
or
it's
he's
like,
imagining.
or maybe
Yeah.
like, I think it's his imagination. I think he's a
Ah,
freaked out little kid, and it's like worst case scenario. So even though when he opens the letterbox, it's a lady that's on the other side, what he sees first is the three strangers.
uh-huh. That makes sense. I
But
couldn't
it
work it
is
out
it
because it's only very brief, like half a second. It flicks and you think, what did I just see? And it's like, no, there's three weird dudes' faces.
which makes you think of Home Alone even more then, because it's like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
look, it's the wet bandits trying to burgle his
Yeah,
house.
sweat bad.
It is odd though, and it's not like, and like I said, I could even be wrong on my interpretation of what that is. You could be right that that is just a still left in or something that was maybe edited or changed, but that
Well,
was kind of my
we can see that it's him
interpretation.
looking out because you can see the gold flips up on the inside towards him. So it's definitely him looking out, not someone looking in.
Yes,
But,
yes.
but
And
yeah, his
even if it was
imagination,
someone
that
looking
makes
in,
the
it
most
still
sense.
wouldn't make
He's
sense.
freaking out. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that that's how I'd rationalize it.
Because if it was the other way around, it's like, is he holding up a magazine or something, trying to be like, don't come in here, there's people in here. But he's on the inside. But yeah, it's a funny scene, but it's I love the way it's shot, where we just see the close ups of them looking through the mailbox slot. It's I don't know, it's very comical the way it's done and works so well. And it leads us into the next scene where now it's another. Last time we had the kind of outdoor social gathering and beers. This is like the full on teenager party where people are going upstairs and getting busy in a rooms in someone's house while parents are no doubt away somewhere. And Buck has the
And
job of going to find and fetch her back again.
that's right. And we think that we're going to kind of come across Bug and his niece doing the deed, but it's actually
Yeah,
not his niece. It's a different
some
Garl,
other girl.
which, bad boy. You're a bad boy, Bug, naughty boy. And but yeah, we do get that excellent thriller killer-esque moment of just, yeah, the silhouette of the door. The door busts open
It's
and you
so
just
good.
see Buck's silhouette. It's brilliant.
And
It's
it is
brilliant.
shot like a horror film in the silhouette, because there's two or three scenes in this film where they do little horror type homage stuff where it's shot in silhouette and it's real creepy. And you don't know what's happening. All of a sudden, it's just him smiling there with a cigar in his mouth, which is
And
still
we
scary.
finally
If
get.
someone's smiling with the drill in their head like that, it could be psychotic.
Oh, if I was that dude Bug, I would be absolutely wrecking it at that moment
Yeah,
because You know the guy already didn't like you beforehand when he thought you were just dating his niece. Now he's just discovered that you're kind of banging some other girl, and he's got a drill in his hand. Like, what do you think's going to happen next? And it's a good moment though of it's finally we got some reconciliation between Buck and Maisie. It is Maisie. Am I right in saying that the oldest girl's name is Maisie? Or am I getting
Maisie's the youngest girl, the little one. I get them mixed up too. Hang on. So
Tia? Tia
Maisie's the
is the oldest
youngest.
girl's name.
Um, and Amy Madigan is Chanice. Macaulay Culkin is Miles, which I don't know if they even say the name Miles in the movie, but
Janice
it is,
is
isn't it?
the girlfriend's name. I think Tia is the oldest daughter's name. I got a
Hang
feeling
on,
it's
where are
Tia.
we? Let's see, Janice, Maisie, Kelly, Miles. I'm not sure. Or it says Amy Madigan. So,
Weird,
oh no,
weird.
sorry, yes, no,
Anyway,
that's his. That's Buck's lady. Yeah, Gabby Hoffman is Maisie. Cindy. I've lost her name again, which is stupid because I looked it up last week, but I built the whole show like 2 weeks ago where I had all the cast in front of me, and now I've lost because I'm having a quick look online, but it's showing people how they look now when they're like 40 and 50 years old, so I can't recognize them.
my memory's terrible anyway, because like I
Yeah,
watched this movie like regularly and I still can't remember her name. Anyway, the point being there is reconciliation finally because he's caught Bug in the act, and he reveals that Bug is in fact being placed in the boot of the car, and he has them all tied up and all sorts of maybe we're going to see one of those ritual killings that he mentioned earlier on. Bug is really he's really at the mercy of Buck here, but we do,
right.
like I
So it
said,
is
we
what
get
you
a
said.
nice
It is what you said. Tia Russell. She's the
Thea Russell.
teenager. Okay,
Thea, yeah.
cool.
So he pops open the boost. There's Bug all tied up, and him and Tia
Yeah,
have
and
a good
you don't know
tackle.
he's in there at first. Like they kind of like she's walking away sad and mopey down the street, and obviously been rejected by the guy, or not even, who knows if she even saw him there or whatever. She's walking along down the street by herself, which is pretty hazardous for a lady walking around late at night. And then he's like, "No, come on, get in, get in." And she reluctantly gets in. We see the first time her face actually breaks, and a little smile where they're kind of joking around driving. And he's like, "Oh, ha, ha, things I could do to him. He's a piece of whatever." And I was like, "Oh, by the way, he's in the truck." and you think it's a joke, but then he's actually in the fucking truck. And it's like, fuck, it's a little bit more unhinged than we thought. He's just joking around, but the guy's in there.
And he's such an idiot, Bug, because okay, fair enough. So they had him this far. He thought probably for a moment he was going to get drilled and killed, but that doesn't
Yeah.
happen. So they let him out of the car, and they're driving
And they
off.
start
But
driving
as they're
away.
driving off, he's still giving Buck guff. He's still like, oh, I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to call the cops, and I'm going to go do this and that, which is like, what an idiot, because he kind of got off
Right.
lightly. But of course, this encourages Buck to stop, to pull over, gets out his glove, his golf tee, his golf ball, and he's obviously quite the golfer, Buck, because
Yep. He's a
he's
good golfer.
nailing these shots, yeah. Which
And he just
like
cracks
that
him
would
right
be
in the head.
painful. Oh yeah, that would be really
Well, that
painful
can
getting hit
kill
with
you
a
or give
golf
you a
ball.
concussion. It's funny, but
It is funny. It is funny. And look, it could have been a lot worse for Bug, so he should count himself
yep.
lucky that it was only, golf balls he was being hit with at the end, instead of getting like, his brains drilled out of his skull by an angry
Yep.
uncle. He got off quite lightly, in my opinion.
And then Tia Russell was actually having a laugh with them in the car. So you see, they've kind of, there's a little bit of early bonding in this moment that, like, he actually does give a shit about them, and he's not trying to just be nasty. He actually cares about them.
And we get Tia and Shanice having the heart to heart, and he is kind of letting her know that, oh look, Buck actually really is a good guy, and that was my
Yeah.
fault. What happened? I was kind of stirring up trouble between the two of you, which is half true. Buck still did all the other things that he shouldn't have been doing, and he was still
Yeah,
obviously the guy he was. But look, he wasn't like being super bad. But look, hilariously, of course, Buck is eavesdropping on this conversation between the two ladies and gets caught lovely
and
when
they know he's there and push the door open, and he dodges it like a ninja out of the way. But as soon as he steps back, the girlfriend goes bam and kicks the door, and he goes flying like the fucking goes flying crazily through the air. It's such a it's only like real super cartoonish moment because he flies all the way across the room, and she's like not even a third the size of him, and just like kicks the door, and he flies over there Superman style.
she knows him well. She knows him too well.
Yeah,
But it's a good moment because overall she is happy. We get that whole kind of warm and fuzzies. It's going to be okay.
yeah, they're like patching up fences.
And she's kind of also Shanice has kind of also witnessed how Buck has really kind of went out of his way to take care of the kids as best as he could, and it's kind of cast him in a new light in her eyes as well. That maybe he's
Yeah,
not such a kind of waster and a bullshitter. Maybe he could be a responsible adult.
yeah, he's very nurturing and has a good heart, which I mean most of the time John Candy does in the films he's in, which leads into the parents coming back again from out of town.
And of course, we didn't really mention it much at the beginning, but she's not just really an arsehole to Buck. Like she's actually got a chip on her shoulder with everybody. Because at the
Yeah,
beginning of the movie, she is giving her parents a lot of guff, especially the mother is getting a lot of lip off her. But we see here at the end, when the parents have come back home, and Tia and the mother they finally embrace and hug it out, and you get the feeling that that conflict has been resolved as well. And of course,
yeah,
Tia
and
is just
partly
smiling like
because
mental.
Bucks happened to get to it and break this heart out of shell that she doesn't want to let anyone in, and sees that someone actually gives a shit, and like John Hughes is great at doing those family moments and stuff, and like there's a lot of laughs in this film, but there's a lot of big heart to it. And that moment when the kid like hugs the mother and then she smiles and you see him, and I get a tear in my eye when I watch this bit of the film. Like every time, it really gets to me.
Yeah, no, it's a really nice moment. It is a really nice moment, and
Like
yeah,
I can
just
literally remember the times when my youngest sister went through shit like this with my own mum and just treated. I love them both to death, but treated it like fairly badly in that. And mum was really distraught because she was getting all the kind of shit just like in this movie. It really gets to me.
yeah, no, it's look, the drama that unfolds between mothers and their teenage daughters is it's a real thing, and
Yeah, it's a real thing.
this
It's very
movie
real.
this the movie does
And
capture
John
it
Hughes is great at
perfectly.
doing that, like real life sort of teenager stuff, like the real, drama, emotional upheaval stuff. But we also get the good range of Candy expressions here, right in the end. Here we get the shocked look and the smile, and we get all the good expressions.
It's crazy to think that he may not have been like the first choice for that role. Um,
who could
I
who
think
could
I
have
did
had in this role? Bill Murray, Dan
well.
Aykroyd,
Well, there was talk. There
Chevy
was
Chase.
talk. Like, well, Chevy Chase was one, and I'll
Yeah.
tell you who another one was. Who I was shocked that was mentioned for being in consideration was Jack Nicholson.
Oh, really? Imagine him
Imagine
in the
Jack
driller killer scene, like,
Nicholson.
yeah, John, here's Johnny.
Yeah, I just
I thought you were going to say like Michael Keaton or something, because
yeah.
in any era you can look at who was the short list of the top 10, 20 actors were considered for every major film of the year. That the studio, whether it's a director or a studio, would say, "Well, this is the list," and I'm like, "No, I actually want someone else who's not on the list."
The Jack Nicholson thing would blow my mind. Like, imagine in
That
an
could be
alternate
a cool
universe,
like alternative version where it's like he really is a maniac.
yeah,
And it's
really,
real
really
subtle
dark
and just
stuff.
low key. You don't know till the end. And as he drives off at the end, you see like maybe like a dead body or something kicking out of the car or the trunk or something, like the Burbs. It's just like something.
And I also didn't know until quite recently that there was a goddamn TV spin-off show of this movie.
Oh, really?
And it's just called Uncle Buck. All obviously different actors playing Buck and the kids, with the premise being that the parents actually die, so then Buck has to come
The
and live with
parents
the kids
die.
full time. Yeah, that's
That's
the setup of the TV show. The parents are killed in the first episode, and then Buck has to move in with the kids full time, and then that's what the
So I
TV
wonder if it's the
series.
same studio, if they bought just the rights to the name or something.
I've a feeling it's probably something that's very kind of loosely. They bought the rights to the name and the kind of story
Hmm.
and characters. It flopped
There's a lot
anyway.
of things like that. Like you've got the bloody. I know that it exists. A Lethal Weapon TV show. I've never watched it. I never will watch it. To me, it doesn't exist
Yeah.
because it's like a
No,
name
I
only.
think yeah, they did a Ferris Bueller's Day Off TV series as well. I think it was just a thing to do where you take a popular John Hughes film and try and adapt it into a TV show in the 80s seems to have been the formula. But the Uncle
Come
Buck TV
quietly,
show,
or there will be TV trouble. RoboCop bloody TV show.
Uncle Buck was cancelled
Two
after one
animation and
season.
live action. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying it flopped anyway. It was cancelled after one season. I think the
Yeah.
majority of people hated
I
it.
think it came up once in Google Images when I was looking up stuff for this, but I just ignored it and I thought it's something they've made 10 or 20 years later. There's nothing to do with the thing in any way. It's just using the name. It's like when you've gone, well, here's a character called, I don't know, Grimlock. There's Grimlock, and like, let's put him on a RID construction vehicle in 2001. I'm like, no, it's just a brand name reuse. That's nothing to do with the actual thing.
Yeah, keeping copyright, keeping those those
Yeah,
brands under
trademarks and
license.
copyrights.
No, but a great movie, and like I was saying at the beginning of the recording, just it was a real kind of childhood
And
favorite of mine. Makes me always
well,
think of a time.
watching again the other week, the next day, I wanted to watch it again. Like I could watch this movie any day. It's just I just love it.
It's real easy watching, and like a lot of these movies, it just the setup and premise is so simple, and you don't really need anything
Hmm,
more than what you get. And it's like it's an hour and 40 minutes, but it feels like about and a half hour. It just flies by the time in
it
this
does, it
movie.
really does.
And as always, obviously you do a fantastic job with these screen grabs. But we'll always miss something, I'm sure. So if any of you kind of have a moment or a line or something you think we missed or could have mentioned or would just like to bring to our attention,
Well, if you're
um,
down for some off-track betting, get some Uncle Buck
yeah,
bucks into you.
don't get the counterfeit Uncle Bucks.
So,
Get the real
I think
Uncle
these
Buck.
might all be counterfeit, to be honest. But I think I did manage to get the car in there with the smoke, which is again, which all this is just stupid AI generated images. That's why the faces look really weird.
Well, strangely enough, and I can't think of the name of the guy who does the TV show Uncle
Yeah,
Buck, but the guy, the Uncle Buck face on those AI generated um dollars looks nearly more like the guy they have playing him in the TV show.
I need to do like a composite slide now, and then my Uncle Buck bucks, my Bison bucks, and my I'd buy that for $1. I need like that's all my currency, so I can go buying things.
Then you actually need to pay to have them printed on
Yeah,
the
and then
finest
printed, and
paper.
then go to prison for making fake currency. Do a prison film.
Cops pull you over and like open up a suitcase full of like bucks
Yeah,
and Bison bucks.
Buck
Like, what
bucks.
the fuck is
And
going on?
the getaway driver was like Paulie Shore, and he's the guy that broke me out of prison.
But yeah, no, a great time. Loved rewatching Uncle Buck and having a chat about it. We are kind of in the Christmas season, even though it's not
Yeah,
technically a Christmas movie. I
what's
do get Christmas vibes off it as a movie, though.
it's set in winter. It's set in winter time, and
Yes,
I'm not. Don't quote me on it, but I believe it was actually filmed in a December.
yeah. It was. So look,
I mean,
you know,
in
it's
the real world in December, not just set in the winter. And they did Uncle Buck and last week's show, National Lampoons. These movies were shot basically back to back.
oh, very good.
Because Hughes
And
was,
you know,
while he was the director of this, he was like producer on the other one.
at least we didn't get a straight to TV or straight to video sequel called like Uncle Buck 2, Buck Goes to Hawaii or something like
Electric Boogaloo. Uncle Buck Goes Hawaiian. Yeah, that'll be the movie to watch. Uncle Buck and Beetlejuice team up. I'd actually watch that,
Uncle
to be
Buck
honest.
2, Uncle Buck 2, Uncle Buck. He clones himself and then there's two of them.
Yeah. That's like multiplicity, like, but it's Uncle Buck.
You hear
But yeah,
that,
we
Hollywood
better.
guys of the 80s? Hire us and we'll come up with the sequels for your franchises.
We'll wrap up there, and I'll just mention next week we're going to be doing Ho Ho Ho. I Got a Machine Gun movie.
Oh yeah. We're going to be taking a little visit to Nakatomi Towers. We're going to have our Christmas party here at the Boba Joe Show.
And the movie's quite a lot different to Die Hard Arcade. That video game does not seem to be an accurate representation of that movie. It is fun though.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Die Hard next week.
Yeah, we're looking forward to living fast and dying hard next week. Not really, just the first one. We're not going into any of those sequels. Not yet. Not yet.
Well, I will spill my guts and say, in preparation for the show, I watched Die Hard about a week ago, and I went, fuck it. I just watched Die Hard 1, 2, and 3 all in a row.
I watched the first three, no problem, man. But I draw the line after that.
After that, no. After that. Okay. Well, we're gonna finish up there for today's show.
See you later, folks. Take care.